Welcome on board the Rich Planet Starship, broadcasting from somewhere high above the Earth. I'm Richard D. Hall. This week's guest is an author, researcher, filmmaker and blogger. In his spare time, he is a hospital porter. His research covers a wide spectrum of interests, including UFOs, media manipulation, secret science and cover-ups. So without further ado, let's activate the teleporter and get him beamed up onto the ship.
Oh, nice ride, Scotty.
Ben Emlyn-Jones.
Hello, Richard.
Hiya, Ben. And that's an interesting surname, is it? Where does that originate from?
Well, obviously, I come from Wales. There's so many Joneses in Wales, you see, they have to have an extra name. Right. Otherwise, we all get mixed up with each other. Right.
Now then, we've got a wide range of subjects to talk about today. Starting with your blog website, which is called HPANWO. Can you tell us what that stands for, Ben?
Hospital Porters Against the New World Order. All
right, so this is an organisation which you have originated. Can you tell us how many members it has?
One.
Right.
Me,
and
so far.
How long have you been going?
Since 2006, I've been running HPANWO.
So can you tell us the philosophy behind HPANWO?
Well, basically, it's a place for the discussion of subjects which would not normally be discussed in either the media or in normal society. I have a great interest in these things. I believe what people call conspiracy theories and paranormal phenomena is actually the most important issue that affects the human race and planet Earth today. Right. And they need to be dealt with and addressed. Right.
Now, you sort of got the name for your group from another organisation. Tell us about that.
And in America, there's a man called Jack McLam who runs an organisation called Police Against the New World Order. And I thought, well, if police can have an organisation against the New World Order, why not hospital porters?
And the organisation is called Hospital Porters Against the New World Order, and you are a hospital porter. Now, part of that is, the reason why you've called it that is to do with the hierarchical structure and snobbery that is involved in the NHS. Can you tell us about that? How certain people look down on other people in the NHS because of they're a surgeon or they're a doctor or you're a nurse or you're a cleaner. Tell us about that, Ben, as you were telling me about that the other day.
Yeah. I'm sure you yourself and most of your viewers are familiar with the caste system in India. Right. Most people in this country would say how awful it is. Yeah. But what they don't address necessarily is the fact that it exists in this country too. It's just unwritten. Yeah. One of the reasons I set up HPANWO was to address the various values and customs in society that most people adhere to without really knowing why. You know, they usually, if you ask them why, they'll say classic phrases like "it just is" or "that's just the way things are." So in other words, they don't know why these things are. You know, someone has just told them, and they are adhering to that value without knowing why.
So you might have someone on the NHS who's a cleaner, and you know, a doctor or a nurse, say, might look down on a cleaner, and then a doctor might look down on a nurse, and that's what we think. But not everyone's like that in that organisation.
Definitely not. And there's some great doctors, there's some great nurses who can see through this this falsehood in the same way I can. I actually don't get terribly upset when I meet a doctor or a nurse who looks down on porters. What really makes me upset and angry is when I hear porters looking down on porters. I get annoyed, for instance, when I'm socialising with my fellow porters in a pub or somewhere, and they turn to me. This actually happened, you know. They turn to me and they say, "Ben, don't tell anyone we're porters." Right. You know. I mean, this is crazy because there's pimps and drug dealers who are not ashamed to say what they are and what they do for a living. I mean, why are people who are essential members of a life-saving team ashamed? Absolutely. And it is simply this status hierarchy nonsense, which is completely unnecessary.
We had a few drinks last night, probably a few too many drinks last night, and we got talking to a cleaner in the NHS, didn't we?
Yes,
and
yes.
You tell us what you said about cleaners at the NHS.
Cleaners save lives every bit as much as surgeons do. We have a situation in the last few years where we have things such as superbugs, and like MRSA and C. difficile and other nasty antibiotic-resistant strains that have actually killed many, many people. It never became a problem until the government started contracting the cleaning services out to private private concerns, which when these private concerns took over, and this happened at my hospital, the quality of the service plummeted, and these unsanitary levels of hygiene first emerged. And I don't believe that superbugs would have been the problem that they've become if that had not happened.
So you could possibly consider the cleaners to be the most important people in the NHS. If it's not clean, people are going to die of these diseases.
Well, put it this way, they're no less important than anyone else.
No, absolutely. All right then. Well, you have destroyed your birth certificate and passport.
Yes.
And tell us the reasoning behind that, Ben.
As you said in my introduction, I study things such as cover-ups, and it got to the point, I felt, where I could no longer in good conscience carry documents of citizenship. I destroyed my birth certificate and passport. I don't suggest that other people should do this if they don't want to. I don't pass judgment or look down on people who don't do that. This is just what I chose to do as a form of protest against the horrors that are going on in our world at the moment.
Right, so you don't feel that, let's just call it, the authorities are representing you as a person correctly, so therefore you refuse to be stamped by these pieces of paper which identify you as being part of that organisation.
Yeah.
So I mean, do you ever have the need to travel abroad then? I mean, is that not an issue? Is that...
Obviously, I mean, if I did, it would be extremely difficult. Not impossible, but extremely difficult. I've actually found I don't miss travelling abroad for several reasons. Firstly, there's lots of nice places in Great Britain you can visit. You know, when I'm beamed down, actually, I'm going to do a couple of trips, you know.
Yeah.
And secondly, I mean, the world is becoming more and more uniform. And I mean, I went to Australia, you see, to see my brother. I spent a couple of months in Australia with my brother, and I went there with enormously high expectations of feeling I was going to visit somewhere exotic and strange and different. Well, in Heathrow Airport, when I got on the plane at Heathrow Airport in London, there's a branch of W.H. Smith in the departure hall. One of the first things I saw when I got off at the arrivals hall at Sydney Airport was a branch of W.H. Smith in the arrivals hall. And I thought to myself, and you walk along Sydney's streets and boulevards, and you see the very same brand names above the door that you see when you walk through Oxford and anywhere else. And I think to myself, well, people say it's a small world, and it is, and it's not only a small world, it's becoming a very uniform world. There's a standardisation of culture, which I think is extremely pathological and concerns me. And when I travel abroad next, I want to see a free world.
Now, hospital porters against the New World Order, do you not think that's perhaps a bit of a you're restricting its membership? I mean, can non-hospital porters join?
Yes, I do tolerate the presence of civilians.
Right.
But yeah, honestly, it actually says in the position statement that anyone can actually get involved. I have a forum.
Right. So you have a mission statement as well. Yeah.
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 It's basically it's kind of what I've described.
Right.
There's a forum there which anyone can join. There's comments boxes which are open to anyone who wants to post a comment. You don't need to sign up for a blog or anything. There's a forum which is very active. There's a few unpleasant characters on it, but don't let them put you off, because there's some decent people on there too.
Right. All right. And are you seeking to recruit other hospital porters into your organisation, or
I wouldn't use the word recruit. There's no sort of formal membership. It's not really an organisation as such. I'd like people to come and read and say what they think and enter into discussion and to act on the information they find there and to hopefully change their own lives.
Right.
If enough people do that, then the world will change in line with our own lives and our own desires.
Now, you've written a couple of books, Ben, haven't you? Tell us about your writing. I've
written 2 fictional novels. The first one came out in 2002. It's called Evan's Land, which is about a Welsh boy who lives in England and he goes back to live in Wales. It's kind of futuristic story. Right. I don't consider that my finest work now. I look back at it and I think, well, it's not that good.
Right.
But my second novel, Rockall, I'm very, very proud of. It came out in 2004, and it covers a lot of the subjects in fictional allegory that I just discuss on the blog in a non-fiction sense. If anyone wants to read Rockall, they don't have to buy the book anymore. There's a new edition, and an updated and improved edition of the novel, free on Hapanwo for all people to read.
All right. Now, you sort of went through kind of an awakening process, like a lot of people have, and a lot of people are doing now. And you started going to conferences. You're a big conference attender. Can you tell us give us a snapshot of the different conferences that you've been to, and the kind of things that you've learned from them, and the speakers that you've listened to?
I've attended as many of these conferences as time and money allows.
Right.
I've been to the Alternative View conferences by Ian R. Crane. I've been to UFO conferences like the Weird Conference and the Exopolitics Conference in Leeds. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity, Stop the New World Order. Welcome to Hapanwo TV. Well, it's Monday morning. The autumn 2010 Probe Conference is over. Now I've got to go back to the so-called real world. Luckily, there's a slight hiatus in my descent into normality, because me and Estain are now off to we're off to Blackpool now. We're going to go to the Conspiracy and UFO exhibition, which is David Boyle's. David Boyle spoke at the conference he was the last speaker of the conference. I had to leave before the end because we had to meet up with some friends, and I was going to go meet some friends at a pub, and they didn't have very long, so I wanted to spend some time with them. But he's an amazing guy. He's, like I say, he's a short, sort of chubby bloke. Reminds me a bit of Roy Kinnear, the famous actor. He's very, very passionate about this subject. I mean, he could basically go on all night. I mean, he's so full of the beans. You know, his exhibition has been praised by many people. Even Jonathan Downes, the famous cryptozoologist, a former ufologist who's turned very much against UFOs. I do feel like I'm a bit of an outcast, you know, and conferences like Probe gives us a chance for sort of outcasts to get together. Have a good day. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity, Stop the New World Order. The Probe conference at St Anne's in Lancashire is really kind of the one closest to my heart, because it's the one I go to twice a year, and I've developed some very close friendships and affinity with the people there. There's some lovely speakers. You meet some great and fascinating people.
Now, one in particular who spoke in 2006, Dean Warwick. You were at that particular Probe conference, yes, where he died on stage. Can you give us the background to Dean Warwick? Tell us about him and about what he was going to reveal.
Dean Warwick was a man who was added to the Probe agenda at the last minute. The original agenda that was sent to me didn't have him on it. When I turned up at the conference, he'd been added, so he was quite a late addition to the list of speakers. This subject is quite controversial in the Probe community. You know, it has sort of split us down the middle in a way, not in an acrimonious sense, but there's
the Dean Warwick story.
Yeah, it's a controversial issue in the Probe community.
Right.
What happened was he's a man from New Zealand who's a civil engineer, and he's worked in the United States on bridges and tunnels, and he knew Bobby Kennedy. He spoke about how he had attended a business dinner in the 1960s with a group of very prominent industrialists, and they were laughing and slapping each other on the back over cocktails and boasting about how they'd killed their president. Mm-hmm. Of course, this refers to John F. Kennedy.
Yes.
Warwick was present at that time, and he heard them say it. Since then, he has sort of, like me, he went and he discovered new things and new secrets, and he began thinking in an alternative way.
Dean Warwick gave an interview with Dave Starbuck not long before this Probe conference where he died, and I believe there was certain sort of revelations in that, but it's understood that he was going to come out with various revelations in his probe speech, which was going to be, he said he was going to name who killed Bobby Kennedy. He was going to name who is the Antichrist.
Yes, very strange.
And can you remember some of the other things that he was going to speak of?
Yeah, it said he did say in the
blurb.
In the blurb,
yeah.
He did say in the blurb that he was going to actually name the Antichrist, and which is a very, very strange thing to put. Even at a conference like this, it's a very odd thing to put on a blurb or to claim you're going to do. He came onto the stage, and the first part of his lecture was a demonstration, which was basically a simulation of the collapse of the Twin Towers in New York on September 11th, 2001. He used baked bean cans, which may seem a little an odd kind of comparison, but this man is a civil engineer. He understands how these buildings are built, and he understands how they collapse if they collapse. And what he did was he built a tower of about 6 baked bean cans, and he kept one loose baked bean can separate. What he did was he got his assistant to hold the loose baked bean can next to the top of the tower of baked bean cans, so that it was next to the top can.
Yes.
Then he said, I'm going to pull the bottom can out from the pile, and at the very same moment, drop the one you're holding.
Yes.
And so he did. He pulled the can out, and the assistant went like that. And of course what happened was the loose can fell straight down and hit the table. The pile of cans collapsed at a slower speed.
So he's saying that the towers did not just collapse of their own accord. They were assisted in some way.
Yeah.
That's the point he was trying to make with that. So therefore it was done deliberately.
Exactly.
Yes.
The point was that the towers collapsed just like the loose baked bean can did.
Yes.
Not like the tower.
Now, he made a statement on stage to the effect that I am now going to reveal the sort of, the icing on the cake of my talk. Here it comes.
Yes. Yep.
And then the guy drops down dead.
This is strange. I mean, he seemed to be building up to some kind of climax in his speech. Like he basically saying what you just did. I'm about to reveal something I shouldn't be saying. I shouldn't be revealing. I've not done it before. Not mentioned this before. And I was half joking to myself, looking over my shoulder to see if there was a sniper in the air vents or something. It was just half a kind of joke to myself. And the next minute he just stopped speaking, and keeled over onto the floor. We paused for a moment, thinking it was some kind of trick or ruse or.
Yes.
But I mean, we realised that he really did collapse, and we jumped to our feet, and some people tried to resuscitate him. I called an ambulance and just said he's fallen on the floor, he's lying there, and they immediately started giving him basic life support, respiration and heart massage. His heart had stopped.
And I've heard rumours that someone was seen to walk out of the hall, get in a car, make a phone call, and calmly drive off.
Yeah, someone has reported that. I didn't see it myself. Obviously, we were concentrating on him, but that was reported.
All right, then, Ben. Well, we're going to go for a short break now, and we will talk more after this, so don't go away.